I'm trying to talk about this fight right here and the potential of it going down, right? Because it seems like we have a pretty clear path for how this fight can happen. And, I think the pretty clear path here is Ilya gets through Armin, Islam gets through Ian Machado Gary, right? I think this last fight night really kind of showed us the map to this treasure here of a super fight. Of a super fight, right? I think Armin, he got through Dan Hooker. He finished him. He took him out, and he proved that he is the rightful number one contender who deserves a shot before any super fights can happen. You got to fight Armin. And, as for Islam, it's very similar in ways, same, but different, I like to say. He's got that win over JDM, but he's got a contender in Ian Gary who's, coming off a big win. These are pre-updated rankings, which is why they look a little silly. I'm assuming when they update these, Ian's going to be at 2. He might take Bilal's spot. And before you go arguing, well, Shavkat beat him. He can't be below him. Well, then explain this. Ian Gary beat Protez, and he's below him. So that doesn't much matter. What matters is your more recent wins and how good they were against who, And Ian Gary, he beats the former champion Bilal. He stopped every takedown, didn't entertain any of those grappling exchanges, and just, he showed I'm here, I'm ready to go. I'm getting better each fight. Let's run that sucker. We got Ilya versus Armin. We got Islam versus Ian Gary. Those two fights, great fights. Both of them are phenomenal fights, right? And if they both win those fights and defend their titles in their new divisions, I say we run this sucker next, right? I understand the argument of, if they just got there, let them clean their divisions out. I get that argument. But let's go ahead and look at these guys. These two guys, they're not the most active guys. They're not fighting 3-4 a year. They're not fighting, maybe once or twice a year, these guys. And time's only passing by. Do we want to wait for Ilya to fight Armin, gets through him, and then he's got to wait for Justin and, maybe Justin and Patty fight, and then he's got to wait for those fights to happen, and then wait for them to recover and book the fight against him, and then fight one of those guys, and then maybe Benoit Saint-Denis got another good win at the point. It's a lot of unrealistic expectations these guys have. They're thinking these boys are very active. They're not fighting every other month, every other year, maybe. No, they're not that inactive, but you know what I'm saying? These guys aren't the most active guys. And in their little, I don't want to say little activity, but in their little activity, I'm going to say it anyway because I got nothing else to say here for that. I'd rather see this fight go down than waiting for all these contender fights to go down. As great as the contenders fights are, it's just going to take so long before we get to all of them. And, if one of these guys loses, well, this super fight's out the window. So right now seems like a clear thing. You got the clear contender in Armin. Take him out. You earn the right to go up and fight Islam. Islam, you beat Ian Gary. You still got some contenders here. But, luckily for you, a lot of these contenders need one more. Michael Morales, you need one more. Shavkat, you're coming off a long layoff. You need one more. Carlos Prates, you're looking great, but you need one more. Ian Gary beat you not too long ago. You guys need one more. JDM, I think he'll fight whoever is left out of this equation here, right? And then I know Usman. Where's Usman down here? Oh, he's above Leon. Heck, oh, how about that? So Usman down here, he's chomping at it, right? He wants this fight with Islam. And don't get me wrong, that's a great fight. If a good, healthy version of Usman shows up, man, that's a very interesting scrap, if I do say so myself. That being said, he's just not in a position to take that fight. It just wouldn't make as much sense. It would, if you're okay with Usman getting the shot against Islam next, then you can't complain if Patty gets it before Armin. That's how I'm thinking about this. And as good of a matchup this could be with Usman, I think he needs to fight like Bilal. Beat Bilal, and maybe you get one more. I don't know. I don't even want to think about Usman right now. No offense, but I think we mix these things up. We get them too overcomplicated when we do things like talking about Usman getting the shot. I think the clear path is you, Ilya, fight Armin. You, Islam, fight Ian Gary. You beat those guys. Let's run this sucker at 170. And then regardless of the outcome, you'll have a contender at the time. Ideally, Justin and Patty maybe fight. One of these guys might come out on top, and he'll be next in line, and that'll be a great fight waiting to happen at 55. And then, at 70, these guys all get matched up. Michael Morella, Shavkat, Carlos Prates, JDM. Let's match these guys up and see who prevails. And whoever prevails out of these type of fights, you're right there next in line as well. So I don't think this is a super fight that should be passed up. I think it should be one that they get done before something goes wrong and then we lose it and then we never get to see it, because this fight already has so much hype. Ilya's been chasing him. He said, I'm coming up to 55. Oh, you left? Okay, let me knock a couple of guys out and then I'll chase you at 70. I love it when a guy is chasing somebody down. It reminds me a lot of Kevin Lee when he was chasing down Khabib and he said, I see a lot of holes in your game. Topuria sees holes in Islam's game. This is obviously at a higher level, both double champs, but you get the reference. This fight would be phenomenal. And I'm hoping they get through their next contenders here so we can get it done. Tough fights ahead. I don't think either of these are easy fights by any means. Arman, obviously, he's great, but I do think Topuria's got the style. I think he's got the tool set and the power and the grappling base to get it done. Islam, Ian Gary, that's a big welterweight. And I think the face-off will show you that this is a big welterweight. JDM and Islam about the same size. Ian Gary, that's a 6'3" welterweight. Let's see how Islam does against a guy with that lanky, rangy, stomp your knee back, kick you from range, and then an ever improving grappling. Each fight, this guy's getting better. Ian Gary, say what you want about him, he's getting better and he's good. So I think this is a great fight as well. Both have great fights next. Hopefully we don't have to wait forever for those fights to get done. Get through your contenders, and let's book this sucker after that, hopefully.